Welcome back to What Matters This Week. I am Lauren Maloney. Joining us this Sunday is Cary Brown. She is the Executive Director of the Vermont Commission on Women, of course, a part of Change the Story VT. And that's sort of our big topic today as Change the Story is wrapping up this month. Cary, appreciate so much that you're joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really very happy to be here.
Change the Story, and I do just want to read this mission statement from the website, a multi-year initiative to align philanthropy, policy, and program to fast-track women's economic well-being in Vermont. Now, this was launched in 2015. I understand that the thought process was it was always going to sunset at some point, but why now, and why is this the right time?
Well, you're absolutely right. It was always pictured as a time-limited initiative. We didn't want to start a new organization. We had all been doing this work for a long time, but what we wanted to do was to come together and in partnership try to advance all of our missions about women's economic security much more quickly. We were looking for a way to get it really systematically changed to institutionalize practices that across the state and to serve as kind of a catalyst really to get other people to take on this mantle of improving women's economic security.
I should mention that this is basically a collaboration between the Vermont Women's Fund, Vermont Works for Women, and of course the Vermont Commission on Women. When you set out to do this 7 years ago, have you accomplished some of the things, or should I say all of the things that you intended?
Well, we have accomplished a tremendous amount. So we have released significant data reports. We've done research and data collection and reporting that is more comprehensive than has ever been done before on women's economic well-being in Vermont. We've done extensive work directly with employers, bringing employers together to work with each other to share best practices and to work on an ongoing basis towards goals of gender equity. We've developed toolkits that employers can use to analyze their own pay equity in their own workplace and resources for them to help increase pay equity, both gender and racial pay equity. And so we feel like we've been really successful in elevating the conversation, in expanding the understanding across the state of the importance of looking at women's economic security. And we have a lot in Vermont that we can point to that I think we get to take some credit for, not solely, but the fact that we have the smallest or one of the smallest wage gaps in the country right now is a testament to years of work on many people's part. But I would say that Change the Story gets a little bit of credit for really helping to elevate that conversation and expand it.
Also, I can't help but, and I wouldn't overlook, the Burlington soccer team several years ago with their equal pay jerseys, and really how that, went viral. The Change the Story, I think, kind of made a dent on the national stage as well. Would you ever have expected that kind of spotlight on equal pay and women's issues in our small state?
That was really remarkable, and kudos to the soccer players who started that whole thing. And all we did was really, once again, just elevate and lift up what they were doing. But it really caught on, and it really caught people's attention, I think partly because it was young people, but also because we are just as a culture really understanding lots of ways that women are facing continued inequities in the workplace. The issue of equal pay is not something that we've taken care of and dealt with and is behind us, even though things are so much better than they were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But no, that one was really amazing, but I'm not really surprised once it got going that it caught people's imagination so strongly.
Women still make 83 cents on the dollar to men. Do you see that changing in the short term?
Yes, I do. I mean, it has been in the past few years, it has been getting better. There was a long period of stagnation. We saw a lot of improvement in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, and then it really stagnated. But I think that we're seeing things start to turn around again and starting to see some real changes. And so I am very hopeful that that number is just going to continue to shrink.
And I mentioned men. I wonder how your work, how Change the Story VT, has welcomed men or perhaps changed some minds or perspectives along the way.
That has been a huge part of the work that we've done. We have this whole kind of arm of what we've done called Champions for Change, where we've brought together male leaders who really wanted to be engaged in this work, and they have brought in their colleagues and their friends. And the Vermont Women's Fund has really led the way on organizing that group and helping them to kind of channel the work that they wanted to do. And one of the things that has come out of that is this LEAP toolkit that we have that employers can, it's a free toolkit, they can download it from any of our websites and they can use it to do their own pay equity audit and look at their own practices. And that came out of a whole lot of work that was really inspired by some members of that Champions for Change group.
How does the work continue? I know you've teased a little bit on your website about how the three different groups and organizations may take on some extra work, but what's next?
Well, the work doesn't go away. I wish that it were as easy as a few years of collaboration and everything was all taken care of. So in spite of the progress that we've made, there's still lots left to do. So we've kind of portioned out some of the major elements of Change the Story. So the data collection and reporting, the Vermont Commission on Women is taking that on. And so we will be doing some updating and issuing of new reports. The gender equity work with employers, Vermont Works for Women is taking that on. They have a new program called Gear Up that is for employers to continue that work together on gender equity. And then, as I said, we have the LEAP toolkit, which is going to be available from all of us and is going to live on the Vermont Women's Fund website. And then as well, the Vermont Women's Fund has launched an initiative called This Way Up, where they are working to connect with as many of the women-owned businesses in Vermont as they can. This is one of the things we learned in our research is how little information there really is about women-owned businesses in Vermont. And so the Women's Fund has embarked on this project to try to connect with as many of them as possible and learn that.
I wonder if along the way there has been a particular story you were told and an example that you were given about how the work may have influenced somebody, affected someone's life, and exactly how did that make Change the Story feel about the greater work it was doing?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we got a lot of those stories, a lot of comments, a lot of emails saying you came up in a meeting today, or somebody cited something from your report today, or I would like to, I want to bring this back to my HR group. And at some point we realized that that was very important feedback and we needed to actually collect it. So we started writing down all those things that folks told us so that we could measure our impact, not just with looking at things like the wage gap, but also looking at how all of these people who had not before had gender equity on their radar or on their meeting agendas or as part of their group process, who now do. And so hopefully we'll be able to continue supporting that and it will just grow from here.
The Metoo movement also really picked up steam and occurred during the time Change the Story VT was going here. I'm sure that was nothing you expected, but how did that perhaps change or challenge the work you did?
Well, I didn't expect that it would explode the way that it did, but at the same time, it was no real surprise that people were coming forward with all these stories, because this is something that, you know, we really knew was a huge problem for women at work. Facing sexual harassment at work is one of those barriers that can sometimes be hard to talk about, sometimes can be hard to quantify, and yet can have a huge effect on whether a woman stays in a job or just decides to quit and move on. And those are the kinds of things that over time really affect the wage gap and really have that's part of why women overall earn less money than men do. And so So it was really important for us to talk about, and it was really great to see so many other people paying attention to this. So just across society saying, we have to absolutely listen, we have to take this seriously. And there, you know, the Vermont legislature enacted some pretty progressive legislation to try to deal with sexual harassment in the wake of the Metoo movement, which I think has had a real promising impact. And so I'm very hopeful for the future about that.
And Cary, my final question here, have we changed the story?
Well, I think we are changing the story. I think we can say we've had a lot of success in changing the story, but there is much more to do, and there will continue to be. And so I'm very optimistic that we will not be the only ones continuing to do this, that we all understand now that this is all is on all of us.
Cary Brown, appreciate you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.